right, I'm recording now. I'm going to mute myself, and then the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Yeah, thank you everybody for joining me today to learn a little bit more about the University of Nicosia and a little bit more about our country of Cyprus. So my name is Matt Spors. I am the Enrollment Manager here for the University of Nicosia's Global Semesters program, so our programs for our US students. So I'd like to start just by talking a little bit about Cyprus. I know for American students, it's not a location that they're typically familiar with. I actually did this program myself for a semester, and I didn't really know much about Cyprus until my school told me about it. So like I said, I'd like to start off with a little bit of information about Cyprus. So if you don't know, Cyprus is an island in the Mediterranean. It's to the south of Greece and Turkey. If you look on a map, it looks like Cyprus might be a Greek island. Culturally, they are very Greek as well. They speak Greek. They eat a lot of Greek food. However, Cyprus is a sovereign country. It's part of the EU. Definitely an important fact for our US students, especially those looking for semester programs, is that our students are not required to get a visa if they do a semester abroad with us. Cyprus was ranked the safest country in the world for young adults to travel to by the World Health Organization. We get about 4 million tourist visitors annually. For some perspective, there's only 1 million people that live on the island. So we get a lot of tourists from Europe as well as Russia. Again, Americans might not know about Cyprus, but for Europeans, that is certainly not the case. It is a really top destination for traveling. Most Europeans visit Cyprus at some point during their life. The reason being, Cyprus is the sunniest country in Europe. There's over 330 days of sun every year. There's a lot of statistics out about beaches. This is the newest one. 2 of the top 25 beaches in Europe are on the island. Another stat is about 20% of all the top beaches in Europe are in Cyprus as well. So it's a really beautiful and safe place to be, which is why we get a lot of tourists. There's also a lot of history on the island. There's about 12,000 years of human history, which is pretty unique because some of the oldest known human settlements in the world have been found in Cyprus, which it's an island, so it's always an interesting fact to tell people. You'll see a lot of different cultures and a lot of different cultural heritage represented on the island as well. You'll see things that you might expect being so close to Greece, a lot of ancient Greek ruins, but then you'll see ancient Roman architecture. You'll see Venetian architecture. There are still homes lived in Nicosia that are from the Ottoman Empire, so 250-year-old homes. So like I said, there's a lot of history on the island. Definitely an important fact for our students. As I mentioned, they are very Greek. They do speak Greek. However, Cyprus is a former British colony. So because of that, over 80% of the population speaks English. I actually still live in Cyprus in the summer, every summer. And like I said, I did a semester in Cyprus as well. And I don't really know much Greek because you don't really need it to get around. In the major areas where our students are, such as where our university is, in the capital of Nicosia, the large beach towns and other large towns around the island, just about everybody speaks English. It's more of some remote villages where English isn't spoken at all. So again, it's very easy, to get around. And I think that helps a lot of our American students, with culture shock, because there really is never a point where you're lost and you can't ask for directions. So that's very nice. Nicosia was ranked one of the top 52 places to visit in the world by the New York Times a couple of years ago. I think we're number 12 on that list. It's a very cosmopolitan island. It's very European. They're very fashionable. The city itself has about 300,000 people that live in the city. So it is a fairly large city. There is some hustle and bustle for sure, but it's still a Mediterranean island. People are still a little bit more relaxed. If you're 5 minutes late to something, that's all right. You're probably on time. Cyprus is also a very cost-effective European location, especially when comparing to a lot of the more well-known study abroad destinations. Whenever I'm talking with our US students about budgeting for food, for personal travel, for things like that, I tell them just to budget as if they were here in the States, because the cost of living is very comparable. Even though they are on the euro, the cost is still about the same as it would be here in the States. A couple other quick facts about Nicosia. There's about, like I said, 300,000 people that live in the capital. About 30,000 of those people are college students. So by no means is it a college town, but the city is definitely accommodating to its college students. There's over 1,000 restaurants, very vibrant, social scene. Our coordinators, who all of our students get to interact with a lot when they're in Cyprus, they actually will send out emails to students about what's going on in the city, cool festivals to check out and things like that, because they really have a good pulse on what's going on. There's also a very vibrant sports scene as well. There's a professional soccer team that plays just outside of the city limits. If you've never seen a professional soccer match in Europe, it's definitely worth checking out, even if you don't like soccer. Another quick fact about Nicosia. So this was a stat from last year coming into this year. We were ranked the #1 small European city of the future. That was based on human capital and lifestyle. Essentially, it's a wealthy and very safe location. A little bit about who we are. So we're the University of Nicosia. We're the largest university on the island. We go by UNIC for short, so you'll see that around a lot. We are the largest university in all of Southern Europe that teaches primarily in English. So during the semester, there's over 400 courses that are taught in English. We have about 14,500 students at the university. The breakdown of that is about 11,000 or so local students. That is both our Greek and our Cypriot students. We have around 2,500 European study abroad students. Fun fact, the EU actually caps us at that number. We have a lot of students from Europe that try to study abroad at our university. And then depending on the year, anywhere from 300 to 500 US study abroad students as well. Some of the programs that we're most recognized for, definitely our medical program. So we have a med school at the university. It's in partnership with St. George's University in London, second oldest medical college in the UK. It's where Gray, who wrote Gray's Anatomy, was actually a professor. We're very strong in international relations. If you look at Cyprus on a map, it's kind of the last safe window into the Middle East. So there's a lot of Eastern Mediterranean studies. A lot of like diplomats will have meetings at the university. Accounting, we have more chartered accountants per capita than anybody else in the entire world. We're very strong in architecture as well as blockchain technology. As I mentioned, there's over 400 courses taught in English every semester. So one thing that I didn't really think about when I studied abroad that ended up being a huge facet to my time there was the fact that I got to take courses not only with the other American students, but also with the local Greek and Cypriot students, and of course the other European study abroad students as well. So it was a really organic way to meet people from all over the world. The first half of my semester, I definitely hung out a lot with the Americans. It was my comfort zone. And the second half of the semester, I was hanging out with friends that I had met from all over the world, which is really, really cool. Our university is a private university. We actually predate the public university on the island by about a decade. So in the 50s, when we started looking to get our accreditation, when the university started forming, the government said, we don't need a university here in Cyprus. We have Greece right there. Flash forward to today, there's a lot of universities on the island. But because there was no accrediting body in Cyprus at the time, we actually first got our accreditation here from the US. So it's really easy to get courses approved. They just seem to match really well because, again, our university is based on the US model. So 4.0 grading scale, 4-year bachelor's degree program with 2 semesters during the year. So again, there's a lot of courses, and we find that students are able to transfer them back fairly easily. I'll show you a picture of the campus area in a minute. There's over 160 different degree programs in virtually every major. And this is a picture of campus. So I'll just point out a couple things here. These bottom 3 buildings were the first 3 academic buildings built on campus. For the most part, these are now just like lecture halls and classrooms for lectures. To the left, this large building right here was one of the first. So this was the first of 4 student residences that were very recently built. That building's about 2.5 years old. It's where our study abroad students live. It's where a lot of the local students live, as well as, again, the European study abroad students. So a couple other quick things to point out, just the neighborhood. Everything is very walkable for our students. So in your day-to-day, you do not need to take public transportation. You're about a 5 to 10 minute walk from just about anything that you need. So there's a huge grocery store right here. There's different shops, all kind of scattered, if you follow my cursor, from left to right, all scattered in this neighborhood. What's really cool, so our university has definitely grown a lot, and they're slowly kind of eating away at the neighborhood that was there, but there's still, an actual neighborhood. It's a very affluent neighborhood. A lot of the foreign dignitaries actually live in this area. So it's a quieter part of the city, and there's just a lot to do. Just a quick ranking point. So this is just released a couple months ago. So the university was ranked within the 300 to 400 tier for business and economics based on the World University Rankings this year, which is actually a similar ranking to George Mason. Like I said, we're very strong in digital currency and blockchain technologies. There's a lot of firsts on this list. So we are the first to offer a degree in digital currency. We were the first to offer a class, the first to offer Bitcoin as a form of tuition for payment for, obviously for tuition. So we've been ranked #1 in the world for a few years in a row now, based on blockchain and digital currencies. Our semester programs. So I'm just going to briefly go over kind of our offering here. I won't delve into any specifics on courses, but if anybody has any questions about specific courses or anything like that, feel free to message me in chat or just unmute yourself. So our semester programs, like I said, we're very strong in health sciences, just given the fact that we have a medical school at the university. So we're very strong in health sciences. We're also very strong in science and engineering. I know both of those majors can be hard to find courses, which again, we do have a lot of offerings. Humanities and social sciences, again, a large offering. Performing arts, business, this is actually the largest school at the university. So there are a lot of courses available in business, as well as art and design. We also offer summer programs that run for 4 weeks, between 4 to 6 weeks, I should say. Almost all of them are 4-week programs. So the first one is our animal science program. I won't touch on every one of these because it will take a very long time. I'll touch on kind of our most popular ones. Animal science is definitely up there. So it's 2 courses, animal health and disease and animal husbandry in the Mediterranean. There's a lot of site visits. So students that are looking into vet school or just animal science in general, it's a very interesting program. We also offer, I'll just touch on all these, art and photography. We get a lot of students who take this program if they have some elective credits that they would like to take while they're abroad. Communications, digital currency, early Christianity, geology. Engineering is our 6-week program. It's still the same amount of credits. It's still 2 courses, but it does go for a little bit longer. Greek heritage. And then our health management program is pretty popular. It's based around a management of care course, which they actually share with our pre-med program, nursing, and a few others. So I'll touch on that when I talk about those. International accounting, again, we're #1 in the world for most chartered accountants in the world. So of course we have an accounting program in the summer. International marketing, IR, music, nursing is a really popular option as well. Again, they're taking this management of care course, which the management of care is a comparative course talking about the different healthcare systems in Europe, comparing it to the healthcare system here in the US, so more privatized versus public healthcare. And it also delves into topics such as how culture plays a role in delivering, for instance, different bad news to a Northern European family versus a Southern European family, because culture certainly has an impact on how that is delivered. We have pharmacy, physical therapy. The physical therapy program is kind of based around this one course called biomechanics and rehabilitation. You actually get to work in the gait analysis lab at the university. It's where the professional soccer team actually also uses that lab. So it's pretty cool. And pre-med is probably our most popular summer program. Again, you're taking that management of care course, but the second course is special topics in clinical anatomy and skills. So this is a 7-credit program because the first course has a lab. So it's an anatomy course. You'll have your normal anatomy lecture. One day you might be talking about the neck region. So laryngeal carcinoma, what is it? How does it form? Any treatments, things like that. Then you'll actually go over to our medical school and you'll work in the cadaver lab with a prosector for that entire month. So all of your labs will correspond to whatever you were talking about in class that day. So for instance, that day, you'll examine the neck regions of somebody who did not have a carcinoma and somebody that did, and how to diagnose that it actually is a carcinoma. So it's very hands-on. It's a really popular program for students who are interested in going to medical school. All of our programs, whether they're the semester program or the summer program, they're comprehensive. So essentially everything is covered in your program fees except your food and your flight to the program. So your tuition is covered, your housing, which I'll actually show you a picture of the housing in a second. We do a 7-city tour of the island. So they're weekend trips. Some of them are just day trips. Some of them are full weekend trips with hotel stays. We have coordinators that all of our students get to interact with. They're kind of your point of contact while you're in Cyprus. So they'll be taking you on the trips throughout Cyprus. They'll do orientation. And again, they're just your point of contact if you need anything. If you need to find a doctor, or if you're just looking for a lunch suggestion, they're always there to help out. We have about 10 people in our Cyprus office that are just there for our US students. Insurance is covered, 24/7 emergency support, typically by our coordinators. We do a full orientation upon arrival. We do welcome and farewell dinners. You get a local cell phone to use. So you don't need to get an international plan because we do give you this local phone. A lot of times students will just bring their smartphone with their data turned off and they'll use both phones. This way you can still use all of your social media and things like that. I do a lot of the pre-departure advising. So yeah, like I said, all this is comprehensive and covered with the program fees. So for our semester programs, depending on, obviously everybody is looking for a different term. If you apply early enough for our semester programs, you have the ability to save $500 based on our early admission scholarship. Same thing with the summer. The summer program is always January 15th. So if you apply before then, you receive a $250 early admission scholarship to the program. I'm going to skip over a couple of these slides that are not useful right now. All right, regions of Cyprus. So as I mentioned, we take students on different trips on the weekends. I'm just going to kind of touch on some of the places. The first place that we visit, which makes complete sense, is Nicosia. So first, we like to show students around the neighborhood. So you get a kind of a lay of the land where everything is at, where all the classrooms are at, the bookstore, the different restaurants and shops and things like that. Then we take you downtown. Downtown is where is the place where a lot of the local students will hang out at night or on weekends. It kind of reminds me of like Soho in Manhattan. It's where like all the cool hip things are happening. It's fairly close to the university as well. It's about a 10-minute drive by either taxi or by bus. But we do take you on a trip here. We take you to a couple historical sites and museums, as well as just the cool downtown region as well. Limassol is another day trip. So this is the second largest city on the island. As you could tell, it's on the coast by the water. So we visit a few things here. There is a brand new marina that was just built where they park these mega yachts. So there's cool places to eat that look over the sea. We visit the old town in Limassol. We get to visit a castle where Richard the Lionheart was married. He's the only noble to ever be married outside of the UK. So that's another day trip. Larnaca, so you do visit Larnaca, but this is where you actually fly into. So this is where the major airport is located. It's also where one of my favorite beaches are. So what you're looking at here is called Mackenzie Beach. So the airport's less than a mile away from here. So you can kind of hang out in the water and just look up and the planes are like flying like right over you because they're all, landing. So it's a really cool place to visit. And again, that's where the airport is. The Troodos Mountains are a really steep mountain range in the center of the island. It's one of the places in the world where, depending on the time of the year, you could be swimming in the sea, climb to the top of this mountain range and go skiing or snowboarding. So we do a really cool day trip through there. Kyrenia is a port city in the northern half of Cyprus. We visit a couple castles along the way. Othello's Tower is also located here. We hang out by the harbor for an afternoon. Again, cool places to eat on the water. Paphos is one of our 2 weekend trips. So again, the hotel is covered when you're staying with us on these trips. Paphos is famous for 2 things. One being Aphrodite's rock, which is the rock in the top left-hand corner. Greek mythology says that Aphrodite, the goddess of love and beauty, was actually born from the sea foam in Cyprus, which I think is such a huge testament to how beautiful the island is, because the Greeks certainly have a lot of other beautiful islands, and the fact that their goddess of love was born from Cyprus is pretty cool. It's also known for some ancient mosaics that have been uncovered, so we get to visit those. And again, it's a nice weekend trip. Paphos is a really beautiful town. It's a nice, quiet place to hang out for a weekend. Ayia Napa is kind of the opposite. It's very there's always things going on at all times of the day. This is our second weekend trip. You actually stay on a 4-star resort on the water. During the day, obviously, you could swim in the sea. You could scuba dive if you're trained. Snorkel. You could swim through sea caves. You could ATV through nature preserves. There's just a lot to do during the day. And then at night, Ayia Napa. A lot of those 4 million tourists visit Ayia Napa at some point. It has a very vibrant nightlife. A lot of famous DJs come to perform in Ayia Napa. So like I said, there's always something to do in Ayia Napa. We also visit Famagusta. So part of this town is actually a ghost town. So we get to visit this. You get to learn a ton of history about Cyprus on this trip. This is a trip that we take as we're heading to Ayia Napa because it is very close to Ayia Napa. Potaras is actually on the other side of the peninsula of Ayia Napa. And I always laugh at this slide because, you know, for the most part, the weather is pretty consistent in Cyprus with it being warm and sunny. So when the locals are going to the beach, they're really looking for the wind. If there's any wind blowing, you know, from one direction, they'll go to the beach on the other side of the peninsula because they do not like what they call, quote unquote, choppy water. It's certainly not waves, but it's just really funny. They really just like calm waters. They're very spoiled with their beaches for sure. As I mentioned, we visit Limassol, and this is just another picture of the Troodos mountain range. And this last picture is of Nisi Beach. Again, this is a beach in Ayia Napa. This was the most Instagrammed beach in the world, I believe last year or the year before. So definitely a place where all of our students check out. A little bit more about the housing. So they're all single studio apartments. And again, the picture on the left is the student residence where all of our US students stay. So again, you have your own place. It's a studio. You have your own bedroom, bathroom, balcony, all that good stuff. But we still do house all of our students in the same wing. So you have your own space, but at the same time, you're still with all the other US students. There's a lot going on in the complex itself. There's a mini market in the bottom floor, coffee house. There's a restaurant at the top, game rooms, study rooms, TV rooms, things like that. And as I mentioned before, you're very close to everything in the neighborhood. At most, you know, you'll be taking a 5 to 10 minute walk, you know, to the grocery store, to restaurants, or to Euro stands. We call them gyros here. But there is a ton of things to do very close. And if you do need to take public transportation, typically when students are taking it, they're going downtown, as I mentioned. By public bus, it's only 75 cents to go anywhere on the in Cyprus, sorry, in Nicosia. With the public buses, there's intercity buses as well. So you can get from Nicosia to just about anywhere on the island for like €5. So it's very inexpensive if you're taking public transportation. Taxis are also pretty inexpensive. So to go downtown, it's about 10 or 11 euros. So again, about $11, $12. So a lot of times when students are taking like taxis, they'll go as a group anyway. So, you know, you can negate a lot of that cost by splitting it. So again, it's very inexpensive to travel, especially within Cyprus. Independent travel. So obviously, before I get into the independent travel, depending on when you're looking to go abroad, will probably dictate how much independent travel is possible just due to COVID. But these are some of the popular spots that students do visit from Cyprus. The big question I get all the time is, oh, Cyprus looks beautiful, but I've never been abroad and I want to see a lot of different things, which is cool. It's definitely what I did. It was the first time I studied, or the first time I went abroad was when I studied abroad in Cyprus. So I too wanted to travel. And fortunately, it's very inexpensive and pretty quick to travel to continental Europe from Cyprus. I visited a lot of these locations, and my most expensive flight was about $150 round trip. It's common that students will take a weekend trip to Greece and they'll be like, oh, I found a €30 round trip flight to Athens, or I found a €50 flight to Prague. So again, it is very inexpensive to travel throughout Cyprus. So I'm gonna go ahead and leave this up here for a second. This is the last slide. So if anybody has any questions, feel free to unmute yourself or just message us in the chat function. And like I said, I'll leave this up here for a minute in case you want to jot this down. The number is our office number. If you hit extension 1, I'm the first one that picks up that phone. So if you have questions, I'm always available. Admissions at Global Semesters goes to our whole team. So if you have any question at all, one of us will be able to answer it. And then if you want to look more at our programs and want to do a little bit more research on your own, the site for our US students is called globalsemesters.com. So a lot of the information that I had talked about here today is readily available at Global Semesters. So I'll go ahead and unshare my screen now. And if there's any questions, feel free to chat them or again, unmute yourself.